You're listening to the House Guy and Home Girl podcast, a podcast about real estate and real life. As realtors, home builders, and real estate investors, Jon and Kim keep it real. Former teachers turned real estate professionals, they have a heart for helping others. Join them each week as they discuss all things home. And now, here's your hosts, Jon and Kim.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's me, Jon, the House Guy, here this week with my lovely co-host,
Kim, the Home Girl.
And we have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to talk a little bit about some experience that we've got with working with great contractors and not so great contractors, and how you can use the information that we have and our experiences to help you make the right decisions. So looking forward to talking about that today. Before we get into all that, what's been going on with you, Kim, this week?
Very busy week. We're closing out school. School doesn't get out until next month, but schools around here are wrapping it up. So kind of wrapping up testing and things like that. Emmett is in Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast has been, busy week with that, right?
Busy week. And then my dad is sick, so.
Yeah. So back and forth to the hospital a little bit, yeah. So it's been a lot going on for sure. Mentally,
and it's been a really hard week, I guess. I've aged a couple of, got a few more wrinkles than I should have.
Since last show.
Yeah.
I hear you. Well, I mean, as far as anything else, we broke ground on the house.
Yes.
Back there.
Yes. It's like that's done.
Yeah.
Like we got to just move forward.
Yeah, that plan is in place.
Build it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No more walls to bump out.
That's right. And I love it. Like I go back there and there's nothing but footers dug and poured, which means they go down through there and they'll dig and then they'll put in rebar, and then put in concrete and then they put block up. And then the next step will be gravel, and then they'll pour the concrete. Well, they'll set whatever. So we're this close from having walls, and I just want to go back there and stock it because it's I can see it already. It's going to be really pretty, and so I don't know why I'm so excited about this. I guess because it's 2-story, which we built a 2-story before, but I that's my.
Well, you had your hand in a lot of the planning stage of this one, and.
We'll do every time. I don't know.
Well, as far as the blueprint goes.
I don't want to move in it, though. Just to clarify.
Right. I got you.
You said something about that the other day, and I was my heart stopped. Don't want to move in it. That's a whole nother, if I were to move in it, I would have bumped out another wall. Oh, my goodness. I'm kidding, though. But anyways, go ahead. So
in that process, we're going to deal with a lot of different contractors, right? So.
What about you? You've had a really busy week real estate-wise.
Yeah, real estate-wise.
Fireworks.
It has been a good week, yeah. So we listed 6 different commercial properties, 1 in Russellville, 5 in Muscle Shoals.
Great locations, great properties.
Absolutely,
They'll go pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm excited about them. I already had some calls and some showings on that, so if we can get those moved, it'll be a blessing for sure. We get them all moved. Just really great buildings, and they've been, gone through meticulously and cleaned up, and
they really are great buildings.
Yeah, really nice. So good listings there. I'm excited
good
about.
Good location.
Yeah. 3 on Avalon, 1 on Webster, 1 on 2nd Street, which are all, main thoroughfares in our, in Muscle Shoals. So good deal. But like I said, going into this house building thing, we're going to have some contractors working for us. So let's talk about a little.
Yeah, because I think people, in which we have done work before, but we don't do any of the labor really. We'll do cleanup and things like that. So contractors, we really rely on contractors, and so we have people that we have a list of people that we can pull from based on experience and things like that. And then sometimes, of course, people stop doing that particular job. Every house that we do, we lose and gain somebody new.
Sure.
And so, it starts the process over if they're new to do work for us, or, sometimes people tend to, start real strong and be like superstars and then just kind of get lazy.
I think that's not, I don't even think that's even just in being a contractor. I think that's in general.
Correct.
You start a new job
it's just human nature.
I remember when I was in high school when I worked at the Food Land, and I was a stock boy, right? And then I got a shot to go work in the produce department, right? And I was like, okay, this guy over here in the produce department, he really hustles and gets after it, so I'm going to do it. I did it that day, and then I got offered to be in the produce department, and I got a 25-cent raise to $4.25 an hour because I was like hustling on my first day.
Let's just clarify, that's a full dollar than I got when I started to work. Anyways, go ahead.
So yeah, $4.25 is what I was working for there, and that was a raise from $4. But it was all because I hustled on that first day, right? I really got after it. Oh, that guy. And then of course I slacked off over time. We had to have conferences, and then eventually I got out. I got out of the produce department, and I went back to the stock team because that's where all my friends were anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Oh well, I never knew that. I mean, I've heard bad produce, like maybe some food fights.
Yeah, but now we're not going to get into all that. Yeah, some backroom stock. That was when we were on the stock team, but
okay.
Yeah, some backroom antics there.
Red cheeks. Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that. So,
and how old were you? What, 17, 16?
Yeah, like Emmett's age.
Oh my word!
So I can't get too mad if he does stupid things, right? Because we all did stupid things at that age. Going back to contractors, let's talk a little bit about that. How do we hire contractors that don't kind of mess us up, right?
Well, first of all, let's go back and clarify. We could not do what we do without a good contractor.
Oh, without a team, right? I mean,
without a team of great contractors, without that we could rely on, and we've, like I said, we've got a list and a good, in doing this for so long, we've built up our list of contractors.
Oh, yeah, like a Rolodex.
Yeah.
If you know what that is, if you're old enough to know what a Rolodex is. If not, it's a contacts list.
Right. And so I think, that too, like when we started and where we are now, I can't imagine, I remember because you had to do all the work, like asking and who can do this for you and who can do that, and, trying to get those contractors together. Like now we don't think about it as much, but we need to kind of remember where we came from as far as like we couldn't do what we do without good contractors. And that, that kind of sets other builders apart too, because they have contractors and employees and things like that. And you need to make sure that whoever you choose to build your house, or, if you're doing a renovation, make sure they're checking all these boxes and, staying up with their contractors and making sure they do the work, hiring this person or that person, like they're probably not doing the work, more probably 95% sure they're not doing the work. They're having somebody else do it. And you need to make sure that's who you're going to pay.
Yeah, you're following up on all the work, right? So let's go back to the very beginning, why we know so much about this, right? So in the very beginning of us getting it, we were in the remodeling industry for a brief moment, right? For a few years there, we did that. And the reason we got into that was really from a guy that we hired to do some work at our house. And then he did some work and then disappeared, right? Just disappeared. And then through that process, we were living in that house and doing the remodel.
There were
work.
warning signs though about that guy.
Yeah. And in the process, he disappeared, and it was very much like, we got to figure out what to do here. We got to get our guy or get another guy or figure it out.
But he did, so the guy, he wound up finishing up the work, but we were this close, y'all, to calling the cops.
Oh, no, he didn't finish all the work that he had planned. He finished enough.
He finished what he had started. He didn't leave us completely, like, half-tiled floor or something like that. But, yeah, he didn't finish. That's right.
He just did the flooring. It's really all he wanted to do. He didn't do any of the painting and the other stuff that he had kind of on his schedule. But he kind of disappeared, and eventually, that guy got in some real trouble.
He did.
For like doing that to other people. And
he got put in jail.
Yeah. So that goes back to the first point I got here. Do your research, right? Before you hire somebody. And we had done some research on this guy, but not enough.
Somebody recommended him. But then they also said, this has happened in the past, but I know that he's, so you need to get all the research. Don't just rely on the good stuff. You got to take the good and the bad and put that together. Because this guy did do a really good job on the tile, but he wasn't a consistent type person. And so we were smart enough to know that, hey, we're not paying him all of it right now and things like that. But do your research. You need to have references of if you're hiring somebody to do, a renovation in your house or something like that. Do your research and get referrals or references on previously.
Yeah, you can't trust.
Or,
Here's what I would say: you can't trust Google.
No.
Right? You can't trust like the reviews you see on Google. You can't trust even social media because people can plant that stuff. What you want to find is somebody who has worked with this person that you trust to give you an honest, hey, here's what happened.
Right.
Here's what our experience was. He was great, or, no, that this happened and we had an issue there, but we worked it out or whatever. So you want to make sure you do your
not
research.
necessarily like 100% trust Google. You have to question it. You've got to question the validity of like, is this person like, there's a lot of times like that's a really good friend of somebody's, or that's their brother-in-law, or you just got to kind of test the validity of who wrote that review. And so you just got to do your research.
Yeah. So the next thing is you want to get everything in writing. Everything you expect for the amount of money, the timeline, this material, the more specific your contract can be, the better.
Right. When you hire a contractor or a company to come in and do the work, however, everything should be in writing. And if you say, well, it's not customary for them to give me something in writing, whatever they wrote down and y'all agreed upon, they've got somewhere that they've written it down. You snap a picture of it. I know that just around here, not necessarily a contractor, but a local business, they were providing a material type service and an install. And, I had some price discrepancies a couple of times. And then when I ask about it, they're like, no, that's what I told you the first time. I'm like, no, this is not the price we agreed upon. We just had a verbal agreement, and they were just doing an install for me, and so it happened again. The price went up dramatically. Well, I learned from that first time that when they wrote out my quote, and they've got a piece of paper for their records, and they had written out everything, and we had agreed upon the price. I took a picture of it on my phone. You remember that? And when it got time for the install and then the final payment, because you had to pay, they divided it or whatever in half. And so when it came time for the last payment after they had done the install, they did it again. The price went through the roof, and I'm talking like $800 to $1,000 more than what they had told me. And so I went back to that picture, and then they're like, oh yeah, I forgot about this and that. So always get a quote, and all that in writing, and make sure it's like, how much they're charging by the hour, labor cost, material cost. Basically you both need to be on the same page. And if it's not customary for them to, have something in writing, then I have before written something out.
Yeah, too bad if it is.
Exactly.
You're going to have it. And
I've written it out for myself and said, hey, this is what we decided on. And I've made people sign stuff. Like, I don't do that a whole lot anymore because most people do have a receipted paper or something that I can hold. But, yeah, I definitely cross my T's and dot my I's. Oh, yeah.
I mean, you got to. You got to get that in writing. And then, because if you don't have that in writing, then you're at their mercy. They've done the work.
You can't do
and they're
anything.
saying, or, here's how much you owe me, and there's no recourse.
Right.
You're like, or they take it out,
Right. And they could put a lien on your home, things like that. Like if you get too far with with a contractor and they've, here they've put in way more work than what you had decided upon, or, your price is way more than what you were willing to pay, and you don't pay it, they can put a lien on your home.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have ways to hold you accountable as well, right? And that's why it's good to get that in writing. That way everybody knows. Clearly communicate your expectations through the written contract. And then you said something very important. You paid a deposit. Don't pay up front, right? Don't pay up front for a contractor's materials or whatever, right? Like now, this particular instance you're talking about, you paid a material deposit to order the materials from a reputable dealer that somebody we know, right? But if you're working with a contractor who's doing tile work in your house, or he's doing flooring or painting or something like that, do not pay up front. Just simply don't pay up front.
If they don't have enough money to get started, And that's what they'll say. I need money to go buy materials to get started. If they don't have the money to get started, it's probably not worth it, you know. And then sometimes every now and then, like, you know, if they're reputable, they need, you know, that's just their policy is to get a deposit up front. You know, and that's different because you could sue that company and they're, you know, because somebody else may just leave town, skip town altogether, and then nobody can find them, and then you've got no case and you've lost $3,000.
So the way I handle that, here's the way I handle material costs. If a contractor asks me, hey, we need money for materials, I go with them to Lowe's or Home Depot or the tile store or wherever it is. I provide payment to that tile company. I get the materials, and either we load it on my truck and take it to the job site, or we load it on their truck and I follow them to the job site. But I don't just give somebody a blank check or a check for $1,000 and say, go get your own materials. Because if you do that, what you're going to wind up with is, man, did I even get $1,000 worth of materials in my truck? Or did he buy $600 worth of materials for my job and $400 for another job? You're going to wind up with wondering, hey, did he buy the quality materials that I wanted, or did he buy some cheaper materials and put the rest of that money in his pocket? So the easiest way to solve that problem is to go to the vendor, pay yourself, and it's easier than going there even. A lot of times I can, now the way we're set up with Lowe's is I can call in the payment, and it shows up, the receipt shows up on my Lowe's app, and then I can see, is it a quality, is it the materials we talked about? Was it the cost that we talked about? And then I paid for it, so there's no money to pocket. You know, there's no money for them to take from me because I'm the one that paid it. And then they've got money to get started. If that's really their concern, you solve their concern. If they protest, right, and they say, no, I need the money, then let that alarm bell go off in your head like, hey, something ain't right here.
They have done no work for you at this point.
Right, and they're asking for money up front.
Asking for money.
Yeah.
Like there's a way, you know, to get materials there on the job site without giving them the money, I guess is what we're saying. So go back and listen to that, because that is so important. Because I'm not saying we're like experts. I mean, we get, you know, something new all the time. We're like, are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, people are that, you know, the human mind is a really sharp tool. And so, I mean, we get, every now and then we'll get burned or something, but just like from past experience, and then not even us, like we hear stories all the time. And when we used to be in the remodel business, you know, you had to clean up a lot of people's mess ups.
Oh yeah, get somebody to, absolutely.
I don't know how many times though, like more so than not, the people had already paid for the materials and the work wasn't there, and neither were the materials, because they were used up on something else.
I mean, the main way we learned a lot of this stuff is through the School of Hard Knocks, right? I mean, just figuring it out, you know.
But like for that though, like that, you know, that wasn't anything. We were just trying to help those people. So I think it's crazy how many people get, you know, and then every now and then you'll hear it on the news because they get so fed up with a company or a person that they'll go to, I don't know what it's called, WH&T.
Oh yeah. Taking action,
yeah. And then, you know, like, and you see those poor stories, and it's just so sad. Right. So if it's a material issue, you know, that they need the materials there, and go out and buy them yourself. So.
Yeah, because I mean, we've hired, I would say we've hired a lot more contractors than the average listener to this show, right?
Well,
I mean,
but
we've done a lot more of that.
We don't do the remodel, but we used to, and then like we're building a house from the ground up, so everybody is a contractor or employee, you know, like
That's what I'm saying. We've just had more people come through our life,
right?
You know, and then we've seen the good and the bad of that. Right. On average, you know,
we've seen some really good, and some not.
And so here's the thing too that I would say, even with our, you know, because my thought was when we started building, we'll get a lineup of people, right? And then it'll just be that simple. Like, those are our people. But people change over time, right? I mean, like, you might stick with one person for a long time. Next thing you know, you're going, oh, that's not the same as it used to be.
Well, not only that, but people's people change over time.
People's employees, right? Yeah.
Right. So they've got, you know, we'll use another company, and they've got a whole nother set of people or crew, you know, and it's like, oh.
Or in some of those fields, like you may change companies and it be the same people.
And it be the same. Yeah. Oh, like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, hey, you're not working with so-and-so anymore? No, I'm
and that happens like more than once too, where it has happened.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, you know.
Right. Didn't I see you with these people?
Yeah.
They're like, well, didn't you order from, yeah.
So always want to check the work, obviously.
Yes.
You know, that's the thing.
That is huge.
The biggest issue is going to be that we're, regardless of who's we hired, right, check the work, then pay for the work.
Then pay for it.
Right.
I don't care. You know, John and I, we have, it's just a different kind of busy. Like I don't care how busy we are. We will check the work. One of us will.
Well, what always
lay
happens,
eyes on that work before my check is written.
You know what always happens, right? So the biggest miracles in the construction industry happen on Friday.
Yeah,
you know,
it does.
So you have
after lunch,
everybody is not been able to get to it all week, not been able to do this, but then all of a sudden they want that check on Friday. Then they want to come in
and they get done early too.
Put the pressure on you, right? I'm finishing this up. I need you to come check it. This is like 2:00 on a Friday. Well, I'm not able. Right, but they want that check so they can get that check to the bank so they can go live their life on the weekend or whatever they're going to do.
Not everybody, but y'all.
Well,
more times than not.
That's
though.
a big percentage, you know, and so that rush of like getting the work done so I can get my check. Usually, you know, like there's a circle that I share on Facebook, you know, and it's like you can have it good, you can have it cheap, you can have it fast. You can pick two of those things, so you can have it
right,
cheap and fast. You can have it good,
but you can't have it both.
Can't have it cheap, right? So I mean, like that's the thing. You can pick one, and it'll be slow if you get it good and cheap, right? So that's the thing.
And it goes back to the saying, "Don't buy anything that was manufactured on Monday or Friday."
Right. You know, so Friday they're trying to throw it together, so you always want to check that work.
And
right?
you know, like, y'all. Some people just don't like me in that respect because I will not write a check if it is not right. I mean, you got to come back tomorrow. And I hate
Kim's
it for
nickname on the job site is QC, quality control. That's what we call
because
her.
I paid you and we agreed upon. You know, I can go down all the steps that we just talked about. I chose you. You're a good contractor. You know, all those things. I've got this in writing. You said that you were going to do X, Y, and Z. We agreed upon a price, and then the delivery day, those things are not completed correctly. And so I won't write a check. You know, that check will not get written. And so a lot of times, but now people, most of the time, they, you know, will fix it or whatever. You know, I don't have a whole lot of issues, and they make it right. And then sometimes they didn't even know that happened. You know what I mean? And then it goes back to the foreman or the person that's in charge of those people just didn't check their work. You know, that's huge though. If you own a company or if you own a crew of people, that's your responsibility. Those are your, like, you need to go and check and make sure they did it.
Yeah, because ultimately you're going to be the one wanting the check, right?
Right. And like that's just more headache for other people. And, you know, we've got a couple of companies and crews that we do use, and like I don't even have to worry about them. Like I know, like if you say it's done and complete, it's done and complete.
It's done, yeah.
And because they do follow that, you know.
Some are Chick-fil-A, some are McDonald's.
Exactly.
Right?
And those that are Chick-fil-A deliver every single time. I mean, knock on wood, I've never, you know, and I can think of 3 or 4 people like right off and 3 or 4 crews that I'm good, you know, like I don't have a problem, and I know that, but I still eyeball it and check their work.
Sure, yeah, you're going to do that every time, you know. And here's a quick tip talking about that you're saying. So one thing that I use for myself, because a lot of people want, you know, a good relationship with your contractors that you're using. So with her being QC, with Kim being quality control, that gives me kind of an out. If she's not with me, then they're asking me to check it, and I need my check and all that. Well, you know, hey, Kim writes the checks, and she's not going to write it till she comes and checks it. Well, over time, we build a relationship with these people, and they know how well she's going to check it. They do it right in the first place before they get their check, and they build a relationship with us. Now, you may not have that, you know, person that you can do that with, but you can always say, well, I had to get the check from my partner. I had to do this or do that. We had to make sure we.
Basically, you're buying time in a sense.
Well, you're making sure that somebody else lays eyes on it, right? Or that you get the quality.
Not just like, I don't feel comfortable paying you right now. It's I've got to wait for my wife, my husband, my mother, whoever, to she's got the checkbook. So
you're not throwing that person under the bus. It really just gives you an opportunity to say, hey, look, I right now I cannot give you this money because you're not finished, because a lot of times they want their money before they're finished. So you say, I can't give you that money right now. Kim's not going to cut the check until she looks at it, and she's going to have to be the one to approve it before you get paid. So what that does is it puts them in gear. It puts them off of me.
And it's also good, too. I know that some people don't manage well, and they need that money to pay their workers on Friday. And they don't manage well. And if it's sometimes, they'll say, we'll be done by Friday and we need to get paid then. And then you tell them, say it's Wednesday or Thursday, make sure that if they're saying that, because you do need to keep up and clear communication. You need to keep up and things like that, but you need to just remind them, the work's got to be done and it's got to be right. So
moving on from that, when you do get ready to pay them, we talked about this earlier, but you don't want to pay anybody in cash, right? You want to use a credit card or a checkbook so that you have a record of what you paid, because we've been down that road, right? Where you think you're getting a deal. They'll say, well, if you pay me in cash, you can do it for a little less, right? What always happens is you pay some in cash, and
that's not on us.
There's no record, right? There's no,
but you still have to be like, oh, something doesn't sound right about this.
You still owe me this much. No, I paid you this much.
Yeah.
And you can write down if you pay with cash.
We did that a couple times in the beginning, way back when. Bad, because y'all, it's bad. Yeah, cash is bad. Okay.
What you want to do? All right, let's go on to this next one. Look for warning signs and cut it quicker than waiting, right? If you already see ahead of time that, hey, this is going to be a problem, don't wait till the work is finished. Just say, hey, you're going to have to go. If there's somebody's doing something especially dangerous, it's not safe, drinking alcohol on the job site, which we've had people do, doing drugs, if there's something like that, don't be like, we'll wait and see if they get it together. Just cut it now, just surgically remove it, rip the Band-Aid off, and get them out of there. Because the longer you wait on somebody like that that's willing to do that, the worse it's going to get.
Right, and if you're doing a remodel, you need to call the general contractor, the foreman, or whoever is over the job. I wouldn't, if somebody's out there doing drugs, which that's happened before, you need to contact their employer or whoever that you've hired, because you don't want to mess with that person. You don't want to put yourself in danger.
Oh, right, yeah. But we've had all kinds of crazy.
We've had all kinds of crazy.
What you want to do too, if you have a way to kind of hold them accountable, that business, is you want to make sure up front you check their licenses, right? You want to make sure that they're licensed in the state, licensed in the city. They have general liability insurance in case they're, because they don't know when they hire somebody that they have a problem or whatever. They're hiring people, trying to find somebody to work. So you want them to have insurance and licenses appropriate to the city, and then
within their
to the state,
level
like
too.
For us, a home builder's license, like that's something. If you're doing more than $10,000 worth of renovation in the state of Alabama, you're required to have a home builder's license, which means I have to have general liability insurance to have permits and stuff in the cities. You're going to need to make sure that they have that. That gives you some.
Yeah, if we build your house, we've got you covered through us.
That gives you a governing board, though, to go to and say, hey, this happened to me.
Right.
What recourse do I have? Okay, we're going to take action against that contractor for you, and we're going to try to make you whole through our funding and our programs that we have in place.
Right, and that's that. You don't want to hire somebody that's not licensed in that because there's nothing to take away from them, but sadly provide jail time, but they don't lose any license in that because they never had one in the first place. So check for that, and insurance, because you wouldn't want them to sue you either, or something happen.
Yeah, I mean, any number of things can happen.
One of their workers, or they need their own insurance. And
because I mean, things happen all the time.
Right.
That are not because of any not
plumbing.
because somebody's on drugs or somebody's drunk or whatever. Just things happen. And you want to make sure that you're covered.
Somebody could go in there and pull up the toilet, and then it just starts and then you've got a huge leak, and that's on you now because the company didn't have insurance that actually did the work and did the damage
to cover it and
handle it.
Yeah.
They need to have the insurance to cover it and handle it. Or they came in and put a new HVAC and it fell through. So
that makes me think of a funny story.
You don't have time for a funny story.
You saying that, but let me just say this, and then we'll get out of here. The reason I remember, do you remember me calling you? Mm-hmm. Because when we first were remodeling, that's who we were, the guys in the truck and doing this.
We didn't really know the ins and outs.
Didn't know all that.
Right.
We had been teachers, so we were hiring out and doing work for the public. And we were tearing out a bathtub for a couple. Mm-hmm. And
was it a bathtub or a toilet?
It was a bathtub. Uh-huh. The toilet was already out, right? So we're tearing this bathtub out, and I'm showing this guy how to do it like I know, like I'm like, I've been literally set in marching band drill a year ago, and I'm showing him how to tear out a bathtub. So I'm saying, grab it right here and just yank on it. So we're doing that, and he yanks it, and it breaks, and he steps off right on the pipe that comes water supply for the toilet. And I'm in these people's house, and water is just shooting.
Yeah, and they're living there.
Out of the wall.
It's not like they're...
Well, they're not there. They're not there.
But everything's there. You're just remodeling the one bathroom.
Water is shooting out of the wall, right? And I'm like, oh, we got to turn the water off. We got to go out, which is stupid, right? We didn't have the water off in the first place. Why not? We got to get this water turned off at the road.
It was just a freak accident.
We run out there. No, it was stupidity. It was, just 100%. It was just stupid. We run out there, trying to turn the water off at the road, and it's buried. The water main is buried like in dirt. So I'm digging with my hands, right? Dig down. Finally, get the water turned off. And fortunately, the reason that we were there tearing that tub out is because it had leaked and rotted a hole in the floor. And I didn't know this when it was happening, but during the whole time it was that water was leaking, it was shooting out of the wall and hitting right in that hole and going back down out under the house. So it could have done so much damage. But in that moment, I was like, you know what? We got to do something. We got to have insurance, right? Because we just were like working and just figuring it out as we went. And like, we had literally just started doing remodeling for the public. And I was like, we got to have insurance. Because if that had happened and tore it up, it would have been on me to pay for it. And it would have cost me 3 times as much as I was making on the job. Absolutely. I'd have paid out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So check licenses, get it in writing. Don't pay up front. Make sure they have insurance. Right.
Hey, guess what? You have insurance now. So
I
you
do.
can breathe.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Breathe
it was
out.
that moment was enough for me to go like,
it's not cheap.
Whatever it costs, we'll pay it. We got to have it.
Right.
And that those tips will help you kind of get you a good contractor.
That is key. Like, they may be able to, a lot of people look at their work or rely on, word of mouth, but I mean, go over those things, check those things, because you got to check the validity of that review that you heard or suggestion or whatever, and just hit all those points. Good communication, get it in writing. Don't pay too much up front. What else? All those things.
Check licenses and insurance. Yeah,
right.
Just make sure that who you're hiring is who they say they are, right? So if you do all those things, you can get yourself set up with a good contractor. If we can help you in any way to find you somebody that would help you on your home remodel or something like that.
Now, unfortunately, we don't do remodels.
Yeah, we don't
anymore.
do that anymore. But we have a list of people that we're.
But we do build, and when we build, we have went through all this list with all the people that we choose as contractors. We've tried to weed out some of the other, because our list changes. It's very fluid.
Shifts around. Yeah.
Yeah. But the people that are there building your house are reputable people that are licensed, and you don't have to worry when it's us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If you do want to ask us for suggestions or things like that, just let us know.
Yeah, if we can help you in any way, because I mean these are good tips to have if you're a homeowner already. If let's say you're buying a house and your real estate agent needs to know these tenants here and know what's going on, and also be able to provide you with somebody that maybe can do a little repair work for you because your inspection came back and you got a thing that you need to get done. So having those
John
can be
is really good at that.
Having those people in your phone, your Rolodex, all right, can help you. No matter what avenue of real estate you're exploring, right? If you're buying a house, you're building a house, you're remodeling your own house, whatever it is. So if we can help you with that in any way, feel free to contact us. Thanks so much for listening to the show today. We appreciate you tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the show. Drop a comment down below if you got other tips for how to handle contractors or how to something that we maybe didn't talk about, and subscribe to our show, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.
Thank y'all.
Thanks for listening to the House Guy and Home Girl podcast, your number one source for all things home. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and check out our YouTube page for video content from the show.